Hi, today I'm giving feedback on the fourth quarter performance of the 6 investments that we have been tracking since a year ago. We started on the 1st of April 2020 looking at 6 different investments. And the whole purpose of this exercise was where I wanted to prove that the money market is not an investment over the long term. Because many times we find in our practice that people in times of volatility, they say, that we're very sorry, we want to move to the money market because over the last 2 years, the money market have outperformed all other investment classes. So I set out to prove over a long period of time that this is not the case. So this is the fourth feedback of what we've achieved so far. So let's jump right into it. The 6 investments we are evaluating is the Allan Gray Equity Fund, the Allan Gray Money Market Fund, Portfolio Metrics Offshore. Then we looked at Kruger Rands, we included Bitcoin, and then we also included the Prudential Property Fund. So we use these funds as a proxy to just show all the different asset classes that we are evaluating and that we are looking at. So those are the 6 investments that we are evaluating over the time that we track them. So we look at this slide and we see that Bitcoin has just overshot all boundaries. But if we start at the top, you can see if you invested 1,000 Rand in each of those asset classes, you now would have had 15,000. So it's almost 3 times, a 300% gain. But it basically all came about from Bitcoin's stellar performance that we saw. We saw that Kruger Ranch, you started with the one almost in the middle there, you started with 1,000 and now you've got less money than what you actually committed or you started off with. And we also see the one that I thought was going to constantly perform poorly is the Prudential Property Fund. But that is actually almost the third best fund performance that we saw. So if we look at this, we can see that at this point in time, Bitcoin overshot everything, and we're just going to analyze that a bit further at this point. We can see that right from the start, Bitcoin started outperforming, not so much, although it was significant, but for the first 2 and 3 quarters, Bitcoin pulled away, and then all of a sudden we saw it really pulling away during the last quarter. So here we can clearly see Bitcoin just pulling away during the last quarter of this year, and yes, it actually did more than 300% during that time. So this is what pulled up our total portfolio so much. So again, if we look at it this way, we can really see how incredibly Bitcoin performed, and we can see that there was no quarter or no time that it actually declined. It just advanced all the time. So just the last way of looking at it, because we can see right from quarter 1 through quarter 2, 3 and 4 and then just upwards, Bitcoin performed. But what has happened in the meantime? You'll have to wait for the next quarter to find out what has happened to Bitcoin during this time. Okay, so just to have a look at what of the other sectors did. This is the property sector, and we saw on the left hand side a steep decline, and then we saw a stellar performance, about 38% picking up on the right hand side, and that I never actually expected. I thought it was going to carry on performing quite poorly. And then lastly, just to put the property sector in perspective, we can see there right from about 2017 a steep decline of about 43%, and that is because companies like Takealot and so forth started taking over the market. But then when COVID hit in March 2020, we saw another drop of about 55%. So picking up 38% from that bottom is not that bad, it's not that great either, and it remains to be seen what the property sector is going to produce going forward. So in conclusion, what can we take away from all of this? Let's look at a couple of pointers. First of all, we've only gone 1 year. It's not that long, but it's quite conclusive this far. Property surprised us on the upside, and it still has a long way to go. As I showed you just previously, that property came from a very low base. We actually saw a strong Rand performance dampening the offshore performance of the Portfolio Metrics portfolio. And again, local shares surprised on the upside, because where I thought we're going to carry on at the low base of about 34 1,000 points, we picked up a stellar performance right up to where we are now at about 68,000 points. So since this quarter ended, Bitcoin actually dropped quite significantly. And the question again remains, is there still more downside, or has Bitcoin turned the corner? We're going to have a look at that during our next feedback. Krugerrand surprised again on the downside despite worldwide uncertainty, where we've seen many people moving into gold when there's times of uncertainty. And then lastly, the money market actually had a very, very poor return because interest rate dropped, and the money market is returning about 3.8 to 4%. So what is the outcome at this point in time? So I set out with a question, will the money market outperform? At this point in time, the money market only outperformed Krugerrands, but I can safely say after 1 year, Bitcoin is the winner. What will happen next? You'll have to wait till the end of next year.